Have you ever wondered how many enemies it's possible to take down in Resident Evil 4? Well, so have I. Hi, I'm Tally, and today I'll be trying to answer that question as I chop and chip my way through the jungle that is all 5 chapters of Resident Evil 4. The overall goal is 1,000 enemies. If I can take that many down, I'll be a happy lad. If I can't, I will cry. The rules for this are mind-numbingly simple. Everything's fair game. No restrictions on weapons or time. I just make sure that when I leave an area, I leave no sign of life. Now let's dive in. Kicking off the game with the classic 1v1 in the house, and I'll be real here, there has not been a more single-sided conflict since the mum slipper incident of 2015. Now that he's out the way though, my murder senses detected 3 new victims outside who promptly bite the dust. Then you'd probably think I'm going to kill that dog, but that's not true. I saved the dog, because I might be a mass murderer, but I am not cold-hearted. Following that, I finished off the town battle faster than I ever imagined I could have. Like, I didn't even know you didn't have to go into the house. I just ended everything, and it felt good. It felt really good. Then I stumble across a farm that has way too much life, but not enough livestock, so I fixed that issue, which leads me onto a rock, which unfortunately I cannot shoot. But then I find a few lads to take my frustrations out on, and then I find Lewis. I choose not to put him back in the closet as a corpse, because I feel like he will be useful. We're ending this chapter overall with a 34 kill count. Moving on to the next chapter, there's this dude with a broken neck to start everything off, and that makes me happy. And to make it even better, I have my best buddy the merchant. I need him for something, so as of right now he gets to live. His time will come though. No one escapes Leon the Reaper Kennedy. And after making my way through this first area, I have decided to let you in on a little secret. The rule of thumb is, you keep shooting till the music stops. If you hear battle music, you just hold down that trigger. And I'm going to live by that for the rest of the video. Then, I made my way through this incredibly wet floor, leaving it wetter than I found it. Count of all the blood, you know. And I break into some dude's house, get smacked, and vow that he will die by my blades. However, we do end this chapter with a very respectable 86 on the kill count. Moving into chapter 1-3, I thought the game probably expected me to be intimidated by the Chainsaw Man. All I felt was pity for him and his gaggle of goons who get got by the Chicago typewriter. Following that, I ran into this house, met Byron, and promptly earned my place in hell by committing an unholy amount of murder on sacred ground. To make it worse, I even rang the bell so that I could dupe more troops into becoming Chicago typewriter soup. Then I crossed some bridges, gunned down some crows, and was chased by another boulder. And now that that's out the way, I get through the swamp in record-breaking time. As in, I have never spent so long in this area before. Then I have to deal with a fish. I hate the fish. However, killing that fish brings us up to a very respectable 140 on the scorecard, and after putting to an end an incredibly dangerous salamander, I decided to go back the way I came to show some people a sight they might not know existed. Early dogs. Now, unfortunately in this case the early doggo does not get the worm, it gets shot in the head. God, that was dark. Then I head back across the lake and put an end to my sleep paralysis demon, these boxes, and the crowd who came out to thank me for ridding the waters of the eternal demon lizard that has been eating people. I said you're welcome with my gun and moved on. Moved on to what, you might ask? Well, the first real boss fight of the game, or as I like to call it in this run, what it's like to be my girlfriend, because this is over way faster than you'd hoped, and it's nowhere near as fun as I make it out to be. Next, I make an enemy of Peter once more and make it to the church, where I am burdened with the only character I cannot kill, but would love to. But before that, we're up to 158. Going into chapter 2-1, we head back into the village for the third and final time to commit abominable acts after Ashley gets grabbed, which has me going grey. So honestly, the carnage I unleashed on the world after that felt kinda justified. Then, Ashley wanted to check out this cool Airbnb, but it turns out that demand is sky high, so not only is Lewis here, but so is the remaining half of the village that I haven't turned into shredded cheese. So I rectify that mistake by turning them into the shreddiest of cheese. Not cheese I would recommend putting on a pizza or anything on account of all the blood, but you know. But with that, one of my least favourite parts of the game is over, ending this chapter on a nice little 2-2-2 to go into chapter 2-2. Now at this point the game gives you a choice in your path to victory. You can either fight an El Gigante or a horde of GANADOS and 2 Chainsaw Sisters, and when presented with these options I just said yes. So first of all I made my way through the giant and made him a giant corpse. Then I politely scooted my way over to the Chainsaw Sisters, told Ashley to hide, and I proceeded to be the worst thing that ever happened to everyone here. And you think the chapter's over? Nah nah nah, I still have to set the record for highest numbers of bodies dropped from a gondola line, and melt the big cheese like an unstoppable holy blaze that I am. Oh wait, no, the house is actually on fire, I should probably get out of here. Then to top it all off, I shot a truck and its passengers just because it makes me feel alive. Then the game pretends I'm not a one-man walking warhead with literally infinite ammo and one of the strongest guns in the game, and forces me to run into the castle for chapter 3. So we leave the village with a very respectable 279 on the kill count. Now generally I consider chapter 3-1 to be the worst thing that could ever happen to me. If this was a normal run, I would probably think that again. This is not a normal run however, so I'll be having an absolute blast with this. Speaking of blast, it's what I do at the door, ending everyone within a mile radius. Then to make sure the survivors aren't survivor for much longer, I run through this little outhouse bit to cause some real chaos. Then I head into the castle to deal with Wolverine, these noobs, and finally, the water room, which is normally one of the worst parts of the game. There's too many enemies, not enough ammo, but here, we're flipping it on its head and just mowing down everything that moves. This is a type of catharsis that I did not know could bring someone to, oh, actually I should not finish that thought. Then, Ashley gets kidnapped, leaving me to freely end the lives of anything that crosses my path. And funnily enough, we now have 1 kill for every day of the year, 365. Starting off chapter 3-2, I did the best thing I've ever done with my life and purchased the infinite rocket launcher, which means I am now officially unstoppable. So I hop into the sewers, pop on the Ditman and go to town, thoroughly testing out my new toy. And after clearing out a pesky bug infestation, I went upstairs to find a whole bunch of new friends who helped me get this sick shot. Then, I learned that this red guy, literally invincible until you jump down. Shot him like 5 times, all rockets, no damage. However, after that, I did make sure I got the job right and launched 3 rockets his way. Can't say I'm not thorough. Then, in the big room with the rocket dudes, I had to teach them that now I am the rocket dude. Then I ran through the hedge maze to put down some local feral wildlife and conveniently found the key to the next door, thus ending this chapter and giving us a total kill count of 427 dead enemies. And chapter 3-3 starts off with me being locked in a cage and subsequently exploding that cage to show it who's boss. Walked into the room where you're supposed to be introduced to a fully grown Plagas, but they didn't even get a chance to spawn. And when I had strange men in strange clothes grabbing at me from both ends, I did what any smart man would do and pulled out a large gun. Now Lewis is dead. However, that does bring us up to a nice little 441 on the kill count. Chapter 3-4 is a short one, where Leon takes out all of the goons trying to hunt down Ashley, and Ashley burns 2 men alive. I'm sure that as a civilian she won't actually have any moral or ethical quandaries about taking the life of another that will ultimately leave her scarred for years to come. It's okay, she's never in another Resident Evil game. Anyway, 450 kills. Starting off chapter 4-1, we head into my favourite location in the game, the lava room. Why is it here? No one knows. What's it for? Couldn't tell you. Do I make several people fall into lava to experience the hellish combination of flames and drowning? Yes. Now that that's done, I vandalise some armour, save Ashley from becoming a Pornhub title, and saw through a sea of scythe-wielding psychos straight into a swarm of flies that I summarily swat! Which brings me to the new section of the castle, where all I have to do is clear out this tower. The inside needs a good scrubbing, and then I clean up the trash on the outside. Unfortunately, they thought they could use a rocket launcher, but mine's is bigger than theirs. Following that, I ruin Comic Con for these other 2 Wolverines and make my way to the Verdugo, who last time I spent far too long running away from, so this time I decided to absolutely... Wait a minute, it didn't die on the first rocket. Okay, interesting. So it died on the second rocket, so that will have to do, and with that death, we're now up to 524 kills on the counter. Kicking off chapter 4-2, it's time to go mining, and by mining, I mean murdering. I literally made my way through these caverns like a hot knife through butter. Or a stick of dynamite through a rock. Or these bullets through these giant boys. Then I decided to go on a bug extermination spree, which felt really good after my pistol only playthrough. Well, this is a short chapter. I feel like it should have been more eventful. It only brought us up to 570 as well. However, chapter 4-3 was a bit less uneventful. I made my way through this little camp up top, and by made my way through, I meant I killed them all. Then I went down a hole, into a room with a bunch of villagers and chainsaw men, and went to town. I ran through some facehuggers and put an end to their Ripley Scott inspired nonsense, which just made me feel Oh, and then to top it off, I got to the roller coaster section and I became a literally unstoppable force of bullets and pain. Normally, this section isn't that fun, but it's pretty good when you've got the Chicago typewriter. I actually tell a lie. Still boring, but at least I have to put less effort into not dying. But it does bring us up to a nice 626 on the kill count, taking us into chapter 4-4. I did the usual this chapter, which as we know by now is just make bullets happen until the music stops. Then, I casually make my way forward. However, instead of casually walking forward, I had to sprint away from a goddamn mecha douche. Now, it falls down a hole, and I'm not sure that that counts towards the kill count, since it doesn't technically have a soul, but it is incredibly satisfying. Then, I make my way up the tower, applying the standard cultist clearance procedure of aiming for anywhere on the body and letting the typewriter print off their eulogy. Until I made it to this body horror of a boss fight, which was a complete and total pushover, as with everything else in this run. However, it did push the kill count over to 680 bodies. Now, chapter 5-1 has historically rubbed me the wrong way, I won't lie, but this time, oh, it was beautiful. Just being able to pick apart just about every frustration I've ever had with this level. Chain gun dude, chain gun dead, regenerators, degenerators. Iron Maiden doing the dance of the dead. And after I committed really several war crimes, I managed to get back to Ashley to save her from having to sleep on the floor again. Honestly, for as much horrific violence occurred in this chapter, not a lot actually happened. I guess we just move on. It did bring us up to 760 people on the kill count. Okay, we're in chapter 5-2, you know the score. I just completely mow down everyone that tries to stop me and Ashley from swiftly walking out the front door. However, that actually went terribly, because instead of walking out the front door, I dove into a pile of trash, and this time, I don't mean Ashley when I say pile of trash. She is like Sakura of the Resident Evil world. But, unlike Sakura, I beat two notable enemies in the form of some Iron Maidens, destroyed an absolute hell of a mob while doing a bit of interior decorating, and by interior decorating I mean I knocked down a wall. Then, I learned that Ashley knows how to drive heavy machinery. I feel like that's something that she really should have mentioned sooner. But I have no real problems with her taking the wheel, because it's a bit of a good time to bump up those numbers. Then Ashley gets kidnapped, and yeah, still zero problems with that. I'd love to put her in the kill count. Speaking of, by the way, we're up to 853 corpses all across Spain. Chapter 5-3 wasn't super eventful either, except when it is super eventful, like being thrown immediately into a boss fight against U3, which is like the band, but way less nightmare fuel. After popping some buttons and sending it down a chasm, I'm like, cool, add it to the count. And U3 said, not cool. I want to go mano a mano. Just two guys. One man, one abomination. Hand-to-hand combat. Hand-to-tentacle combat. To which I just shot it twice with a rocket launcher. Now it's dead, and I am the victor. So to celebrate that victory, I found a small circle of very close friends and decided to rain unholy fire upon them. And by that, I mean rockets. And once I'm done blowing the minds of all those dudes, I zoom straight over to Krauser, who I fill so full of lead that Gypsy's recovered his corpse to sell for scrap metal. That's actually a lie. They couldn't have done that because he also exploded. Guy's super dead, leaving the kill count on 898 total. Still got a little bit to go though. And by a little bit to go I mean chapter 5-4, which is in essence the final hurdle between me and everlasting glory, and a very thorough job well done on my part. And it was hell. For them. I ran through there firing off rockets like a human AC-130. You ever seen a man fire so many RPGs in the space of 10 minutes? You haven't, and you will not be seeing it for a long time after this either. Honestly, it was brutal. I did Big Mike's job before he got to do it himself, so the poor sod just sat there firing at random shit, trying to make himself feel useful, but nothing was happening. He was just blowing things up because he wanted to feel included. Meanwhile, there's me on a one-man rampage across this industrial complex, just really putting a dent in everything. I do admire the effort though. Like this dude, he knows the true meaning of the boss is watching, look busy. Unfortunately, however, the game decides to add Mike to the kill count, and he's shot down off screen, which is a real shame. That man was 2 weeks away from retirement. So in order to get revenge for his untimely death, I stroll into what people like to call the war room, and I launch rockets at everything that moves, and some things that don't move. Then I recover Ashley again for the final time, put some last enemies to bed. It's time to take on the final chapter, but before I do that, we've got a kill count of 971. Well, in the final chapter there's not really much to talk about other than the 3 important deaths. And you're probably thinking, Tally, there's only the Sadler fight in this chapter, how can there be 3 deaths? Good thinking. This is a kill everything run, and unfortunately for me, everything includes the best friend I'll ever know. So unfortunately, I have to put down the merchant. It was painful. I had to take a moment away, but I did decide to push on. I was fueled by grief and unending rage. And it's time for the epic battle against Sadler, and by epic battle I do mean 4 or 5 rockets that blow his brains out his asshole. And then the final death to speak of in this unending hell is Ashley. She falls into the water and is never seen again, so I'm going to count her as very dead. Which leaves a final kill count of 974. That's so agonisingly close to the 1000 marker, but I can't really let myself be down about it, can I? Well, it turns out that I can. I was editing this video, and those missing 27 kills really did bother me. So guess what I did? I played the entire game again, and I did everything again, except this time I was more thorough. Last time I decided to ring the bell once and left it at that. This time I thought, how many times can I ring a ding ding? Turns out, more than once, so I farmed that for all it was worth. Then I learned that if you backtrack enough past Del Lago, you can bag yourself a ton of extra kills. Of course, you'll know about the dogs by now, but I also would like to point out that if you go back to the swamp, there's a ton of enemies lying in wait. And while I have no idea why anyone decided to put enemies here, I am thankful that they did. There's also a bunch of kills I knew existed in the castle once you get Ashley back, but it completely slipped my mind the first time. And once that was out the way, I decided let's just finish the game as quickly as I can. I did have to kill the merchant again, which was actually more upsetting the second time around. But then I put a rocket inside Sadler's butthole to cheer me up, leaving myself with a total tally of over 1000 kills in Resident Evil 4. So yeah, this challenge is actually incredibly fun. Should I do a hard mode and do it without infinite ammo? Should I do it extra hard mode, do it no infinite ammo on professional? Who knows, you comment down below. Next I'll probably be doing shotgun only, but expect a few challenges over the next few months mixed in with some essays that I want to get off my chest. I've got a lot to say about Resident Evil 5. As always, if you like it, give it a like. If you love it, please share it with a friend, family member, postman, anyone who will listen. That would be really helpful. You've been amazing. I've been Tally. I will catch you all next time. Bye.